The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar on SSL best practices and management tools. I'm Julie Olinsky with the GlobalSign marketing team, and I want to thank you all for joining us today. I'm happy to introduce today's presenter, Doug Beatty. Doug is Vice President of Product Management here at GlobalSign and is an SSL expert. He has over 20 years of experience in the industry and is an active member of the CA Browser Forum and CA Security Council. So please feel free to send any questions you have over to Doug so we can cover them during the Q&A portion after the presentation. You can submit your questions to Doug using the questions box in your GoToMeeting control panel. We'll keep track and try to answer them all at the end of the webinar. You can also follow us on Twitter at @GlobalSign, where we'll be sharing follow-up materials after today's presentation. And now, over to Doug.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Today I'm going to be going over some of the important SSL management topics. We have 7 steps on this management cycle. We'll be going through each one, from discovery through analyze, around through to policy. And we're going to talk about all of the GlobalSign tools and services that can help make things easier for you. So the first step in the process is inventory, and we're going to talk about the inventory challenge and give you a demonstration of the inventory management tool we have. Do you know where all your certificates are? They're probably scattered across multiple geographic business units, different IT managers managing them and their own policies and procedures. You could have acquired some companies through acquisitions and may not have fully integrated in their SSL needs. Obviously, there are these occasional rogue development departments doing their own thing and nobody really keeping track of what's going on. And if you are keeping track of things, chances are you're using Excel spreadsheets, which become outdated over time, lost, or forgotten about. Gartner highly recommends that if you have 250 or more certificates, that you have a tool to help manage and automate the process for discovery and management of your SSL certificates. If you don't have a solid inventory, you can't help mitigate the risk of vulnerabilities, because you don't know where your servers are, what vulnerabilities they may have open to them, and having a complete inventory is necessary so you can resolve these in a timely manner. You also need to keep up with industry best practices. We know that SHA-1 certificates are being deprecated by the end of 2016, and you need to be able to track and report on those so you can properly upgrade the certificates to provide your users with the best UI experience possible. So, welcome to the Certificate Inventory Tool, or CIT. This is a tool that GlobalSign has that will help you find and monitor and manage all your SSL certificates, regardless of the issuing CA or even if they're self-signed. It will locate the SSL certificates on internal servers via installation of a CIT agent. So it will essentially report and collect information both on your intranet and on your external websites, so you have a consolidated view of your certificates across your infrastructure as well as regardless of the CA or self-signed certificates. This will help you avoid unexpected expirations. We've all encountered that before, where all of a sudden you can't get to a site because the certificate has been expired. We'll also let you keep up with best practices by reporting on key length, signing algorithm, and validity period to make sure you're following the applicable policies you've set up within your company. And using CIT, you can define custom policies and report against them. We'll get into some of that a little bit later in this presentation. This is a tool that will help you save time and resources over manual monitoring and checking and checklists. And occasionally, people will renew a certificate, so it looks like it's renewed within your CA portal, but in fact, it hasn't been installed on all the servers yet. CIT will help identify those servers which contain the old certificate and let you know before it expires. And best of all, it's free for everyone to use. So I wanted to give you a quick overview or a demonstration of the CIT. So this is the main inventory page, and it's broken up into a number of subfields or regions on the page. There's a certificate expiration area. We'll go into that in a little more detail on the next slide. Then we have the server name information. So this is a list of all of the server names and domain names that CIT has found. This is the date that the certificate expires. You can sort by the date. You can filter by certain dates and date ranges. The issued by is the CA that issued the certificate, so it'll show different certificates. And you'll notice in the certificates expiring each month in the upper region, they're color-coded. And that's actually by CA. So each CA has a different color, and you can identify and dive into the details easily from there. Reports on the key length, the signature algorithm, generally SHA-1 or SHA-256. It will list all of the SANs in the certificate. As you know, SSL certificates can be used to secure multiple SANs or server names, and this is a list of all of the SANs associated with the certificate. There's a policy field, and you can see that there are 3 sites that are compliant with the policy and the remaining are non-compliant. And we'll have a page on this a little bit later on about what we mean, but this lets you quickly identify and locate certificates that might not apply to your policy. There's a first seen date. This is the date that CIT first identified and started tracking the certificate. And the last seen date indicates the date when it has been last seen. You might notice on this chart there are a couple of entries for www.globalsign.com. That's because over time you have a certificate and you renew it. You'll start to see the discovery and the last seen dates change, for different entries. Where you've replaced one certificate on some or all servers, the last seen date won't be updated anymore, and you'll see it updated for on a regular basis when you run the job for the other sites. And you can start to identify which certificates have been replaced and superseded, so you can remove those from your inventory and not track them anymore. As I mentioned a minute ago, the upcoming expiration chart across the top is very useful to let you see what's coming up. It's a little slider bar where you can have a 1, 2, 3, or even up to a 5-year view of your expirations, so you can manage everything looking ahead and identify what certificates you like to replace or renew well before the actual dates. They're color-coded by issuing CA, and it lets you plan ahead around slow summer times or holiday periods. And if you click on the graph, the inventory, as you saw on the previous page, will be filtered based on the expirations. So if you clicked on the December 15 tab here, you would see 4 certificates in your inventory, and you could identify which ones those were and plan ahead for having them renewed. The next step in this in the presentation is to analyze. So once you've discovered all your certificates, you would like to go and start analyzing the certificates and also the servers. So to ensure the best browser UI for your visitors, you want to make sure that your certificates are compliant with the latest standards and policies and industry trends. And of course, they're not expired or revoked, which causes extremely bad UI. Certificate transparency is a new feature where we embed signed certificate timestamps, SCTs, into the EV certificates. And those are required now to retain the green bar in Chrome. So you may have seen some of this in the industry, and we support SCTs in EV certificates, so you can retain your green bar in Google Chrome. You want to make sure you always use a globally trusted root CA certificate that's embedded in the widest range of operating systems and toolkits, mobile devices, and of course you'd like to use SHA-256 or better because SHA-1 certificates are starting to be deprecated, and we'll get into some of the implications of that shortly. But CIT is a great analysis tool. As I said earlier, it discovers and inventories all of your certificates, but it also lets you analyze the certificates and report on them as well. So I wanted to show you a couple of reports that you can run from CIT. One is the SHA-1 report. And this lets you, one of the most popular SSL stories over the past year or so has been the deprecation of SHA-1 certificates. It's no longer considered strong enough, so the new industry standard is moving to SHA-256. All of the major browsers and operating system manufacturers like Microsoft and Apple and Chrome are all going to stop trusting SHA-1 certificates, both the SSL leaf certificates and any CA certificates in the chain that are signed with SHA-1 on January 2017. So what have we done to help facilitate our customers reach this milestone and transition over? Well, we've limited issuance of SHA-1 certificates to December 31st, 2016. So we won't be issuing any certificates that all of a sudden will become untrusted on January 2017. And we've strongly been encouraging all of our customers to move over to SHA-256. And the recent reports indicate that our issuance rate of SHA-256 is over 90%. So everybody has been taking the advice and recommendations from GlobalSign and the industry overall and taking action to actually move over to this. Google has also been encouraging in their own way by displaying browser warnings to websites that have SHA-1 certificates or CA certificates signed with SHA-1 in the chain that expire in 2016. So even if you get a certificate today, a one-year SHA-1 certificate, and you put it on your website, you'll start to see in Google Chrome the little yellow triangle passive warning, much like you see for mixed content and similar related warnings. So they've been encouraging website owners through this process to upgrade to SHA-256 certificates. Some additional reporting that you can also find in the CIT is reporting by issuing CA certificates based on days to expiration, different key lengths, and validity period. So you can get a good view of your overall inventory. And you can schedule this report to run and be emailed to you every week. So you can get a regular update from the system automatically without needing to log in and run a report. You'll just get a PDF with this report or one of many other reports emailed to you on a regular basis. I alluded to the policy options earlier, but you can set up your own custom policy or use the default policy, and you can apply these 5 different parameters to your SSL certificates. The maximum key length or the minimum key length. So in this case, 2048-bit. Of course, 1024 has been deprecated for several years now. You can assign CAs, so one or more CAs. In this case, GlobalSign is the CA that you need to have a certificate issued by in order to be compliant with the policy. The minimum validity period and the maximum validity period. Perhaps by policy you want to issue only 2 to 3 year certificates or only 2-year certificates. Then you can set that up and you can report on certificates that fall outside of those settings. And the last one that we find being used very heavily now is the signing algorithm. You can specify which signing algorithms are compliant, and if they're not, then you'll identify a warning and it'll be a policy exception. And you can review those on the inventory page to identify and dig down to why this site has a policy violation. But you can't stop at just the certificate contents as well. There are a lot of things about certificates that improve the UI or degrade the UI in certain ways, but there are also a lot of server settings that can affect that as well. Browsers display a degraded UI for improperly configured servers. You'll see this warning on a regular basis. And for example, mixed content or weak ciphers, or if you're pulling in content from third-party sites to fill your site, if they're using a weak cipher, then your visitors to your site might receive degraded UI. So it's not just about your certificate, and actually it's not even just about your server configuration, it's your third-party content providers that may also be injecting content that's not set with the highest security standards that affects your browser experience. So you need to be aware of all of these things. There are also a lot of vulnerabilities and issues that have happened over this past year with Freak and Heartbleed and Poodle and all the rest that take advantage of poorly configured servers. Weak ciphers, Freak used the exportable ciphers that used to be needed long ago, but now they've been deprecated and upgraded to the latest FIPS compliant algorithms. Some sites need to address performance, and you want to have a very fast site, so you might consider OCSP stapling, smaller certificates with fewer sands in them, for example, shorter certificate chains. And of course, if you're an e-commerce site, you want to make sure you're using FIPS-approved symmetric algorithms for PCI compliance and the highest level of security, protecting your sensitive data. So how do you do this? Well, there's a tool, SSL server check, that we use. You can see the URL here. We'll identify and report on many things about the CA, whether it's trusted or not, the SANS mismatch, TLS 1.2 being configured or not, acceptance of RC4, which would be a bad thing if you're supporting that. So even if you have weak ciphers and protocols supported way down on your priority list of your server settings, it can still be a vulnerability because people can take advantage of that and perhaps trick your server into using a weaker algorithm than it really should. So even though it wouldn't normally be used when you test it with your version of Chrome or IE or Firefox, it's actually a vulnerability hidden in there that the bad guy can use to degrade the algorithm and cause insecurities in your system. So you need to make sure you configure all of your servers correctly and accurately. So once you've identified your vulnerabilities, you need to mitigate your risk and take some action. So you can reduce your risk by upgrading your sites to EV with SHA-256 certificates for the best browser experience, the green bar. But you also need to further secure your web servers, the cipher settings, the protocols, configuring forward secrecy, and so on, to configure that to reduce possible vulnerabilities in the future, similar to Freak, like I mentioned before. And you want to keep your operating system and applications all patched. OpenSSL has been the subject of a number of vulnerabilities recently, and you want to keep that up to date so when the next patch comes out, you can easily apply the new patch and not have to do as much regression testing as though you were 5 or 6 or 8 releases behind and you have to do a major upgrade to your OpenSSL application. And then you want to replace any certificates that are getting ready to expire or have been revoked. And this is going to be much easier for you now because you've used CIT and you know where all your certificates are located and you know the key parameters about them. So you can easily identify them, and now you can take action to mitigate the risk of future vulnerabilities. So the next step here is to talk about our GlobalSign Certificate Center platform. We're going to talk about certificate management and also user management. For certificate management, it's one central location where you can order and issue and manage all of your certificates. You can renew them, initiate renewals easily, and there are a lot of ordering options as far as validity period and different products, OV versus EV. You can add SANS and wildcard certificates, select the signature algorithm, and you can order certificates or reissue them or renew them with any one of these number of options. As far as user management goes, you need to be able to control who can issue and revoke and manage certificates. You want to be able to easily back up resources when people go on vacation, so you're going to need to up people's permissions temporarily and then reset them back later so people can fill in for different roles and responsibilities. Here's a view of GCC, and as you can see, we monitor and manage things other than SSL certificates. We have a one-stop PKI shop for SSL, code signing, client PKI, Adobe AATL, and for the products you have requested and you need to manage, you'll see different tabs across the top of your portal where you go to actually manage and order those types of certificates. Within each account, we have multiple profiles, and they can support multiple departments or subgroups or business units. So you can actually have different vetted and validated organizational information in each profile, and a different set of domains and a different set of administrators. So it's much like having multiple accounts in one, where you can delegate the administration off to different business units and different individuals, and they can create users within that profile and manage users and set permissions. We support multi-factor authentication, instant issuance, since your certificate data, your domains, and your organization data has already been validated. You can request and receive certificates immediately. This is all based on a currency-based system where you put some money on your account, and for each certificate you order, it's decremented. You don't need to worry about coupons and codes and credits to manage your certificates. You can easily manage and order more certificates and place certificate requests against those orders. And we have a lot of different methods for ordering certificates, and I'll get into some of those in the upcoming slides. So when we're talking about issuing certificates, we have a lot of different options and API integrations and best practices. So the most common method is to log into GCC and initiate an order through there. Looks much like our retail site if you've visited the retail site and looked at ordering an EV or OV certificate. In this case, though, the domains are pre-vetted and the organization data has been validated, so you can get the certificate immediately. So you place the order, and the certificate would be generated and available for pickup, and it would also be emailed to the designated point of contact. We also have a feature called the public ordering page, and with this you can copy the custom link from within GCC and make that available somewhere on your intranet. This allows authenticated and unauthenticated users to submit requests. The system administrator can also configure this to limit validity periods, signing algorithms, and other parameters. So in this case, you can see the validity period option is only available for 1 year. Well, that's because the system administrator by policy wants people using this link to only order 1-year certificates. You could also specify the signature algorithm, or whether they can add additional SANs or wildcard parameters, and so on. So this is a convenient way where you can let people within your company, your web server administrators most likely, get CSRs, generate them from the server, and submit them in an order, and then it would be reviewed by the system administrator within the account to make sure this is approved and authorized. So it's not immediate issuance from the end user perspective, but as soon as you review and approve the request, the certificate would be issued and immediately available to yourself and to the requester. We have also an MSSL API. It allows internal systems to be developed to request and receive MSSL certificates immediately, and then you can provision those on the back end to your web servers or connected devices. Today we have a very large auto manufacturer using this, one of the world's largest retailers, and also a company that manages and deploys Wi-Fi access points where they provision the SSL certificates in the access point as part of the manufacturing process, and they use the API to automatically request and receive the SSL certificates and then embed them into the device before shipment. There are a number of different products and options we allow for MSSL. Obviously, you can order for different products, the organizational vetted, the EV. We're launching a new product in early Q3 of this year, Intranet SSL, which will allow you to request and receive SSL certificates under a non-public route. And some of the benefits of this are that you can use it to secure your internal servers, and you can continue to get SHA-1 certificates if you need those for legacy applications. You can issue certificates with internal server names, which are otherwise being deprecated in November this year by the CA Browser Forum. And while browsers are degrading the UI of SHA-1 on publicly trusted routes, they're not doing that for non-public routes. So if you have an infrastructure that's closed and you can push out new routes, it's a good option for you to continue using SHA-1 if you have some legacy applications that are unable to be upgraded in this time frame. When you're ordering a certificate, we provide you a wide variety of options. You can request wildcard certificates, multi-domain certificates, which will have additional fully qualified domain names. Maybe it's a subdomain of what's in the common name of the certificate. You can put in an IP address. In the subject alt names, you can have a long list of subject alt names. You can set custom start and end dates for your certificate if you like things to line up, certain expiration dates to line up with milestones within your company. We provide a trade-in option where you can provide an SSL certificate from a competitor and we'll add the remaining validity period onto your SSL certificate order. And of course, we always have and always will have unlimited licenses, which lets you put this SSL certificate on as many servers as you want to support load balancing, disaster recovery, and so on. We have a high volume CA option as well that we're just rolling out. Issues millions of certificates a day to high-speed RESTful API using a highly tuned parallel infrastructure. And we're using this, at least initially, just for private hierarchies and name-constrained CAs, but we'll soon be rolling it out to our customers in general, which will speed up the issuance rates and the volume of certificates issued. We see people evolving to shorter and shorter validity period certificates, so it's important to have the infrastructure in place to support the issuance of certificates with a validity period of a few days or a week. Issuance best practices, certainly we encourage everybody to use EV with certificate transparency. We do support EV certificates without CT if that's important to you as a company, but we feel very strongly that CT is the good way to go, and we highly recommend that to everybody. You should avoid SHA-1 certificates, and you need to tailor the needs to your particular websites. E-commerce sites might have different needs than development sites or content-only sites, and with a wide variety of different types of certificates, you can always find the right certificate for your needs. In addition to best practices for you as the website operators, GlobalSign has been following the best practices set forward by the industry in the CA Browser Forum. This year we've made a lot of changes to support the evolving guidelines and requirements. As you know, certificates can only be valid for up to 39 months now as of April. Internal server certificates can't be issued past November of this year, and the SHA-1 issuance will stop on December 31st of this year. So no more SHA-1 certificates can be issued starting January 1st, 2016. That's really just right around the corner. So we're glad to see our customers all moving quickly and efficiently over to the SHA-256 algorithm. And the next step is renewal. So you've managed your certificates, you've issued them. Now time is coming to renew, and we have some different options for that. You can find upcoming expirations using the certificate inventory tool, as we saw earlier, some nice graphs and charts there. If you received the certificates from GlobalSign, you'll receive renewal emails on a regular basis letting you know that certificates are going to expire. And within GCC, you'll see upcoming renewals prominently within the MSSL screen, and you can initiate renewal right from there by hitting Renew Now, and it'll take you right through the process of being able to renew that certificate. When do you want to renew? Well, you can renew as early as 90 days before the expiration, and we'll add on any of the remaining days from your prior certificate onto your new certificate, so you don't lose any validity period if you renew early. And it lets you plan ahead and just get it done so you don't worry about certificates expiring at the last minute. You can do this directly through GCC, the web page that we saw on the previous slide, and optionally through API integrations. Web Services API lets you initiate renewals as well. Reissuance is very close to renewal. It lets you get a replacement certificate before your renewal term starts. So if you need to replace your certificate and you want a different algorithm, like you'd like to upgrade from SHA-1 to SHA-256, you can go right into GCC or use the APIs to take your existing certificate, trade it in, and get a SHA-256 certificate, the same validity end date, and for no cost. So you can easily go from SHA-1 to SHA-256, or you can upgrade to elliptic curve from an RSA key pair. If you had a 2048-bit key, you can upgrade to ECC 256 or 384. And in the event you did upgrade or you requested a SHA-256 certificate and it didn't work for one or more of your applications, you can certainly downgrade that to SHA-1 to accommodate legacy applications and give you some time to resolve those, and then you can reissue it back again to SHA-256. So it's an immediate replacement. There's no charge for this, and it is a good way to let you get some SHA-256 or elliptic curve certificates without worrying about interoperability, and you can always go back to a lower version if you need to. The last step in our comprehensive SSL management program is policy. So you need to identify policies and implement policies about who controls and who can manage certificates and people. So you need to define your compliance policy. We hit on a lot of these points already, but as far as discovery goes, you need to know what certificates you have and when they're going to expire and what their important parameters are, the validity period, the signing algorithm, the common name, and so on. You need to be able to analyze the certificate parameters and server information. And in order to mitigate risk, you need to detect and remediate certs that don't meet your policy. And when you're managing them, you need to worry about who can issue, who can manage, revoke, and buy more, and so on. So these are all important factors in defining your policy. Once you've come up with what you think your policy is, you need to implement that certificate policy. So within GCC, we'll let you control who can do what, who can request certificates, who can revoke certificates, what domains they can request certificates for, and it's a centralized monitoring activity across your whole organization where you have a centralized source for SSL and for other certificates as well, code signing, as we discussed earlier. And then you can use CIT to also enforce your policy to make sure your certificates comply with the policies you've set forth earlier. So that brings us back to a summary. So we've reviewed several of the key components today to be successful with comprehensive SSL management. But I think it really boils down to knowing what you have, where it lives, so you can simplify management, avoid expiration and vulnerabilities, and enforce the policies you've set up for your organization. The right tools, the right partners can make this much easier for you. So thanks again for joining me today, and I'll turn it over to Julie to see if we have any questions you've submitted during the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doug. Let's see here. We do have a couple questions. First of all, a lot of people have asked if we'll be sharing the recording. Yes, of course. We recorded this presentation and we'll be sending it your way in the next few days, so keep an eye out for an email from us. Let's see, moving along to presentation questions. Here's one. So how does the inventory tool find internal certificates?
So that's a good question. From CIT, when you log in, there's an option where you can download and install an agent. So we didn't really go through all the details today. There is some information in our CIT Quick Start Guide, but you can download this and install it on any Windows system within the infrastructure you want to monitor inside your network. And what you do is on CIT, you create a job, you specify what IP address ranges you want or what fully qualified domains you'd like to look for, and you say you want that job to run on the agent. The agent will periodically poll CIT to see if there's a job for it to run, and when there is one, it will download the job, it'll run it, and then it will upload the results afterwards So you have a central spot for managing all of your certificates, whether they were externally visible or only internally visible.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doug. It was kind of a good follow-up question. What does the inventory tool cost? Is there a cost?
There is no cost for CIT. We provide this to our customers, and we hope they find it useful to manage their certificates. The size of your inventory might be limited for non-GlobalSign customers, so you don't scan the internet, but we provide this tool free of charge, and we hope everybody will find it useful.
Okay, great. See, here's another question. How fast is the high volume CA going to be?
The high volume CA will be able to support a couple hundred certificate requests per second per customer. So we've designed a very, very high volume system, parallel infrastructure to request and manage and issue the certificates in a very, very timely manner.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doug. See, one more question. Let's see here. So someone has a question about the Internet SSL. Would those be externally trusted, or is it the same as signing with your internal PKI?
That's a good question. Yes, these would be the same as signing with your internal PKI. We'll actually be using, we'll be setting up a standard non-public hierarchy and using that for many customers. So it has the benefit of being available immediately and used as a standard product offering. So you don't have to pay extra for your own CA and your own root, and you can use this across the board for SSL certificates within your infrastructure.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doug. It looks like we've actually gone over a little bit here, so in interest of everyone's time, we're going to cut it short, but any other questions that came through, we'll be sure to follow up with you individually afterwards. And of course, if you have any questions that come up in the meantime, please feel free to contact us. And keep an eye out, like I said, for that recording. We'll be sending it your way shortly. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your days.